Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called A Gargantuan Middle Finger to the Galaxy, written by FarmWitch4275. Something about this made me very nervous. Even my subordinates, apparently the only smart people in the galaxy, were starting to crane their necks and squint their eye stalks at the intel we were getting. Something about this whole scenario was off. Something about this whole thing seemed wrong somehow. We randomly stumbled upon them one day while prospecting resources. A small fledgling race barely away from the cradle, a tiny empire of barely 300 systems, barely on the very edge of the galactic arm. The Terran Republic of Sol, the small empire of the humans as they were called, a race of tribalistic Deathworlders that miraculously left their home world. It had been 6 months since first contact, yet every day that passed, a voice in my head kept screaming something about this scenario stank of a trap. I couldn't really figure out exactly why. The humans were all too happy to share whatever information we asked for, within reason, of course, and the more we learned about them, the more we wanted them. The strength of the high-gravity world coupled with their muscle density, speed and durability made them a perfect workforce. Their tribalistic nature could easily be exploited for warfare. Their militaristic history made them an excellent military or mercenary force. Taking advantage of that political and religious strife would be all too easy. The level of advancement would be incredibly easy. Omnivores make them easy to maintain in terms of supply. They're all within galactic average, so you would have just as many geniuses as you would idiots. The physical attributes made them desirable as well. Basically, anything you could ask for. Administration or labor or frontline warriors. Let us ignore the potential of economics and war for but a moment. Symmetrical features and structures, not uncommon by any means. But the humans just had that thing. Tall, dense muscles, beautiful. For the Serenai specifically, we appreciate beautiful things, and the humans' eyes were magnificent tapestries of crystalline art. Humans in general were quite appealing too, mostly just to look at, and look at, and look at more. Living art, I believe, is what my councilman once told me. The perfect species for slaver empires, as a labor force for military, a species that would be all too easy to decimate and control in combat due to their own strife. A race too easily manipulated by words, a race of tribals that could easily be swayed to join our causes and abandon their own. A species that could be slowly bribed or beaten into submission. Small, reasonably undefended, seemingly incapable of handling fleets above 20 ships, judging from initial reports. Diplomats could smell a strange tension around the humans they knew, almost as if there was a shadow somewhere just out of sight that we could take advantage of. But there was this strange feeling, a nagging voice in the back of my mind that I couldn't ignore for some reason. A voice in my head that said something was wrong, something was off, something was different. We had seen this before many times. The galaxy was always so much larger than anyone imagined, and as usual, the newcomers were naive. We could take them right here and right now. I held the border directly with one of their outer rim systems. I already had 20,000 ships in place. I could take them right now. But that voice in my head just wouldn't shut up. It felt different this time. Not a sense of defeat or mystery, but more an odd word for foreboding. A screaming voice that suddenly spoke up that told me not to give an order every time I reached for my communicator. I switched between looking at pictures of humans, the data they so gladly sent us, and the sight made me crave them. Then I looked at a close-up of a human warship, and that nagging voice came back to me. I started a recording of the human first contact team aloud for the entire council to hear. Even their voices were an art form. 5 distinct voices from the first contact team. The beautiful melody of a human female's voice, like swimming in happiness. The youngest and most eager of the team. The gruff, gravelly tones of an old human male. A clear voice of the grizzled veteran that had seen too much and not smoked enough. The strange, discordant tones of a voice distorted by mechanical mask. A man of vocal machine cult. An absurd quantity and quality of augmentation. The voice of another female, this one matured. Stronger, with a passion in her tone, the likes of which belonged to a practiced and well-maintained diplomat. Then the voice of a younger male, this one flat, baritone, the voice belonging to a man who would rather get the job done fast because there was just too much else to do. Each voice claiming peace, freedom, and friendship, but each one a distinct, beautiful tone. Each human was a magnificent work of evolutionary art in their own right. I looked up close-ups of the human photos, the ones they allowed us to take for research purposes. I heard strange noises coming from my councilman as I looked at the younger male. I understood why. Then, my engineers and scientists made those same noises when I looked at the augmented one. Even when they were beyond the pale of humans, there was still something nice to look at. Then I looked at a picture of the warship fleets, and once again, the tingling happiness was replaced by a feeling of unquestionable dread. I looked at one of the Dreadnought-class warships. By all means, we outclass, outgun, and outrange any ship they have. Our mid-range battleships being twice the size of their so-called carriers, some telling me an easy victory, but the strange discordant feeling in the back of my head that kept my blade terrifyingly sheathed. "Why does it feel like I'm missing something?" I asked, seemingly no one. "My queen?" Wrath, the Nomadi counselor asked, hearing my question. "Oh, nothing. It's nothing. I think these human ships, did our techs get anything from scanning them? I feel like we're missing something," I replied without taking my eyes off the warship. Scans produce some interesting and frankly terrifying results, but nothing our fleets cannot handle, my queen. The ship poses below average shielding and armor plating. Their carriers, as they call them, present an interesting and new concept to warfare, one we never foresaw, which, to be honest, we have no counter for. We vastly outrange their weapons by leagues, and in terms of power, there is no real contest. Their ships appear advanced on the outside, but even with their advanced arsenal of atomic weaponry, it would be no contest. General Haggard spoke calmly, looking over a scan on one of their destroyers. "Then why do I have this strange feeling that we are missing something important that's right in front of us?" I remarked calmly and flipped through pictures. Then I spotted it. Hidden in the back line of their fleet formation, a strange ship with a structure completely out of the formation. It simultaneously blended into the background and stuck out like a sore digit compared to the ships flanking it. "What is that one there?" I zoomed in on it and showed the council. They, too, were bewildered. It was a ship that was smooth contoured, round-edged, and had wings enabling atmospheric operation, the size of a small cruiser, skeletal in comparison. Like a small cruiser had started being built, then only the important bits were finished. A prominent spine saturated in what appeared to be communications equipment. I took one look at this thing, blurry and distorted as the image may have been, but that overwhelming sense of unmitigated dread suddenly overcame me yet again. "That's it. That's what we've been missing. I just look at it and I feel something evil is standing right behind me. What is that ship?" I asked, shuddering in my seat. "We spotted that one a few weeks ago, but can't really determine anything. It would appear to be one of two factors. Either it's an incomplete ship with the humans rushed into service, which means that they are ripe for the picking, or it's the type of ship we haven't seen before, like the human carrier craft. My best guess, judging from fleet position, its structural composition, and its unique design compared to the other ships, it might be some kind of dedicated communications relay or logistics operation ship. We actually know the name of the ship and class. The humans call it the Shadowstaff class. That's pretty much all we know about it," General Haggard remarked coldly. "If it's just a logistics cruiser, why is it when I look at it, it fills me with dread again? This whole thing stinks of high oblivion of a trap, but I can't think of how it's a trap, or who set it, or why. It's been 6 months. Nobody has gone near them." "Why?" I said. "On the contrary, my queen, it seems everyone with a starship is gearing up for full-scale invasion of Terran-controlled space. My spies report fleet maneuvers on a massive scale on the Terran border zones deep within enemy territory. They are being excessively cautious about it. Even the Kalagai, who with their own measly fleet of 20 ships, are preparing for lightning raids of some kind. The only ones not assembling a fleet are us, and most ships are stationed defensively around a border zone. Humans are about to become a hot commodity, at least, if that ship for some reason didn't terrify me," Wrath said idly, showing our deployment records. I shuddered in fear for some reason. I couldn't help but feel some sense of terrified dread. "Still, it's a matter of course I have to." "Hold on a moment." I pressed buttons on my throne and contacted the Culvanian Confederacy, our closest allies. Within moments, the gaunt, ape-like creatures with 4 arms appeared on the screen. An old friend, Culvus the Great. "Queen Lavian, to what do I owe the pleasure?" he asked. My officers tell me that you are preparing an invasion of human space," I replied calmly. "Your spies tell you correctly." "I keep having this nagging feeling that we're forgetting something. There's something about these humans we missed somewhere. It's too juicy." The perfect species for all Imperial needs just pops up out of nowhere, barely a challenge by any standard, and casually hands us everything we want to know about them on a silver platter, with a hand of friendship. I smell a stink. Tell me, look at this picture here, and tell me if there is anything amiss. I started and showed the fleet photo. He looked at it for a few moments and shrugged. I waved a hand dismissively, and a smug grin signaled for him to try harder. He rolled his eyes and took a look at the photo, and then I saw the strange sparkle in his eyes, one of recognition and sudden inexplicable caution. So you do see it? Strange, isn't it? I asked. I've just been overcome by an overwhelming sense of dread, sorrow, fear, as if the gods saw through my eyes, realized a dark truth, and then smashed that same fear and terror into my own skull. I have this voice screaming at me, yelling, whining, something in the back of my head telling me something's horrendously misplaced. What is that thing? He said, his face bore the expression of a man who had just been face to face with death, and defecated in his pants. The sight of the Colvanian in a state of fear. Now that's something I never thought I'd ever see. The humans call it the Shadow Step class cruiser. We have no idea what that means or what the ship is for, but for reasons I am unable to speak of, its mere presence terrifies me. We can't get any intel on it either. It's strange, isn't it? I remarked with a furrowed brow. He shook his head and threw his hands up. Why didn't I see this earlier? Far too late. The Council demands an invasion. We assembled this fleet, might as well use it. The paperwork if I retreat would now be embarrassing. No need to invade, old man. Everyone else's. Just use them as an excuse to offer your support or something to the humans and just watch what they do. If that foreboding comes to nothing, let me know and I will send my own ships. You and I can corner the market. With combined forces, you and I can both make a bank of this. Keep us informed, won't you? I said with a wry smirk. Devil woman, you know how to take advantage of a crisis, don't you? He said as he scoffed at me. I wouldn't be a queen if I didn't. Do keep us informed. We'll draw up the trade contracts later. I smiled. He rolled his eyes yet again and closed the call. Well, that worked out nicely. I will inform the 7th and 9th cohorts as well, and the Elusia fleets to reinforce the border zone. I will have Cathar and Sarius Legion on standby. General Haggard stated plainly, and started ordering my fleets about. I sat on my throne and stared at the blurry image of the outer space warship, a thing of rounded shapes and curvy structures, standing out like a stick in a snowdrift amongst an angular, triangular, and rectangular fleet. Now we could all but wait. It was around a week later when the Amanconlo Imperium made the first move. We were all in a panic as we tried to send ships in to report the event. After much trial and tribulation, we finally got pictures and intel from the system. Our cloaked scouts stayed out of the outskirts, hiding in the asteroid field. The pictures came from a few scout probes and drones they sent out. And by all the gods, what a bloody massacre it was. We got a live feed from one of the probes as well. Starship debris fields as far as the eye could see. Snagged heaps, warships smashed in two, with fires and damaged components flying every which way. Some ships were mid-detonation from their reactors, while most of the field appeared to be little more than shattered slag. A truly devastating battle erupted here. In the background, guarding one of their colony worlds, was a Terran fleet, maybe 60 ships by what I could count, and frantically panic and moving about. Well, it looks like the Iman did some serious damage there, boys. A fleet of hundreds of ships must have been too much for the humans, I said. The room responded with likewise heavy chuckle. The jubilation was cut short, as Wartak, one of the fleet commissars, slammed his hands into the console. This makes no sense, he bellowed and started frantically typing away. He combed over dozens of pictures and scanned his reports. What's the matter, fleet commissar? The Iman damaged your pride a bit from their display, I said, receiving a chuckle from the audience. The debris field, that's not Terran tech. Probes have scanned every last ship in that debris field. All of them return as Imancondo, tech and style. Not one Terran ship is in the debris field. Check the scan reports. Not one Terran ship was lost and... Oh, what is that damage pattern? He angrily yelled, pointing at the results. I quickly skimmed through the reports. He was right. Not one Terran ship in the debris field, and he was right about the slag heaps. The damage patterns were abnormal. Why does it look like all the external hull plating is intact but interior damage is almost absolute? Why does the destroyer look like it exploded from the inside? I asked. The familiar feeling of horrible terror and dread suddenly hit me again. Let me see if I can... Here, it's an Observer-class battlecruiser. It is the most intact wreck we can find. Looks like it's split clean in half from the inside out. I can't see any impact marks, laser scorching or kinetic bombardment scarring. I can't see any impact damage. It's almost as if someone carried the warhead into the ship's cargo hold, then detonated. That's impossible. You can't pull off a boarding action like that without staggering casualties. What were they thinking? I yelled. That's just it, Your Majesty. I don't see any entry points or scarring from combat. I don't see any signs that the Imman Conlo even fired any of their weapons. The laser turrets, they're cold. It's as if, he trailed off, they either had some way to get on board without alerting anyone. Then, what is going on here? Drive signature 227, more ships incoming to the Terran system. The radio barked at us. Sure enough, a new warship fleet transitioned into real space just outside the debris field. 600 ships of the Secondary Protectorate state. Before I could warn their admiral, he cut all comms and started a speech about Skakandi superiority. Everything seemed fine for a minute or two. Then we watched it all from the live drone feed. The entire Skakandi fleet, every single one of the 600 ships, suddenly inexplicably exploded. Reactors going nova, ships splitting clean in half, sections of the ship suddenly detonated with a nuclear force, others suffering a cascade explosion sequence similar to that used in demolitions. One moment I was listening to the Protectorate's admiral, then silence as the entire fleet suddenly detonated. No warning, no shock, no battle, just gone. Just like that. The damage patterns were consistent as if a strike team charged in, delivered demolition unit, then detonated them. How many humans are involved in this? I didn't see the humans actually launch any ships or strikes. Run that footage again, I ordered. The footage played again, and I tried looking for something. The human ships never fired one single shot. The Protectorate ships all just exploded. No ceremony, no battle, no signs of boarding shuttles. Scans produced no activity. Nothing. The humans just willed their opponent to die, and it did. Then I spotted it. It was a momentary flash, but one nonetheless. Freeze at 417, I yelled. The video rewound and stopped at that moment. There it was, that strange cruiser again, this time in sharper focus, with more of its detail visible. It had some strange electrical arcing going along its spine. Those antennae and dishes are lighting up and sparkling, like tons and tons of steel at the speed of sound. The answer hit me. My face went pale as I finally noticed the pattern. A piece of technology the rest of the galaxy had abandoned centuries ago. Too expensive, too intense, too specialized, and too complex to be used the way humans were doing it, even for mass fleet transmit. And the humans seemingly perfected it and weaponized it. That's no comm ship. It's a mobile matter relay. The faces of all the officers suddenly clicked with recognition and terrified dread. The humans had not only developed sufficiently energy tech to power a matter relay system, but also perfected it to the point it could be weaponized, en masse, against massive fleets, with no effort. The energy output on that skeletal ship must equal half the Imperium's power output on its largest ship at least. The relay must only be within the same star system, but still, the level of calculation that goes into that kind of equipment, the level of patience, precision, and the sheer energy output required, the fact they can ignore shields of any ship. If they can teleport explosives onto ships, that effectively means any tactics that we have against them, save massive numbers, would be effectively worthless. But even so, how much can they do at once? How many of those ships do they even have? And what's to stop them from teleporting nuclear bombs into cities and starbases? It was the equivalent of placing an ancient knight from years past and telling them to single-handedly go fight a company of men armed with plasma cannons. We had no defense, no way of countering, and anything we could do would guarantee catastrophic losses. All of my military advisors suddenly began frantically recalling every fleet officer they could find and started to pull back resources, to reduce our numbers and try and make it look like we weren't gearing up for our own invasion. I immediately called Calvus and sent him all the intel I could reasonably give. He likewise began to panic and recalled his own ships, paperwork be damned, for good reason. 2 days later, in a human star system called New Kosovo, a fleet of 2,000 warships was mercilessly wiped out. It was at this point humanity closed their borders and declared a full-scale defensive operation around their state. Any further attempts at engagement were swiftly abandoned out of pure terror. Humanity had just sprung their trap, and the entire galaxy just received the business end of the biggest middle finger in history. From a perceived state of complete vulnerability, straight to practically unstoppable. We were lucky they decided to just leave us alone in the end and not try and expand. I decided to wait a bit and just see what the humans did after all that. Maybe after they had calmed down, we could work something out. Preferably something that didn't involve them teleporting a nuclear bomb into my palace. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.